two completely unsuccessful women on the program with us tonight.
Yeah. And the person who created...
defining...
let's see. Stacy, go first, and then we'll go right to Melissa.
I just have a side note. I mean, of course, we all know that the 77-cent stat that they give out is highly misleading. But the other thing is, they define success for a woman or for anyone really is how much money they make. There's so much more to success than how much money you make. I mean, yeah, obviously making money pays the bills and keeps you in the house and feeds your kids, but there's so much more to being a successful person, man or woman, than being at the top of the salary chain. That's my O2 on that.
Melissa?
Well, there's a little detail that it's a complete lie that women make less money than men. And in fact, single young women make more money than men coming out of college. But if the president is so concerned about income equality for women, maybe he ought to start in the White House. That's my 2 cents on that. And once he gets his house in order, he can preach to the rest of us business owners about how we ought to pay our males and females. I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed, but during this speech, it wasn't just the women who he was using to, this is another thing, as a woman, for the president to take a big chunk of his speech, those little women, he's going to save them. You know what? I don't need Barack Obama's help. And he's a privileged man. Shut up. I really don't want to hear it. And he's not even doing what he claims to be important in his own life and his own milieu that he controls. But not only that, he was talking to business owners generally, telling business owners you need to increase wages. And as a business owner, I'm sitting there thinking, does he even know what he's talking about? Does he know the implications of what he's saying? What's been happening through this business, the last 5 years of this recession, is that people are getting rid of employees who are not as productive, keeping employees who are highly productive, asking a lot more of employees, and actually paying most of them more. And we've lost the low-wage employees. So if we increase the wages like he's talking about across the board, there's going to be less jobs, not more. But he doesn't know any of this because he's ignorant, because he's never done a damn thing in his life. He's never signed a paycheck. He's never hired anybody. He's never done anything of any value anywhere, and that includes as president. So it's like he doesn't even know what he's talking about. And so I have a very difficult time even listening to him wax on about what women should happen for women or happen for businesses. He doesn't know the first thing.
Oh, I think somebody just needs to let him be clear.
He's only had 5 years to be clear.
Well, the problem is he's too clear and really he doesn't believe, because when he is actually truthful, we get things like it's better when you spread the wealth around, like he said to Joe the plumber. When he's actually being clear, he becomes truthful, and of course, if he's truthful, then nobody will buy what he's saying.
Yeah. Here's the other thing that honestly kind of scares me a little bit. At the end of his opening statement, he says, "Tonight this chamber speaks with one voice to the people we represent. It is you, our citizens, who make the state of our union strong." With one voice to the people we represent. I don't know about you, and maybe I'm splitting hairs here, and I'm sure I will get a hate text or a hate email or something like that for this, but that sounds kind of kingly to me. Or am I missing something here?
No, pretty much everything he does at this point is kingly. I mean, the thing is, and I wrote about this on my blog today, every president, I mean, in modern history and probably going back even beyond that, has been accused of abusing his power with executive orders and signing statements and the like. But President Obama, I mean, you see, like President Bush, most of what he did when he tried to quote unquote circumvent Congress was in his last few months when he was trying to just wrap up a few things before he walked out the door. It's questionable, some of the things that he did. But it's a lot different, you doing that, when you have a few months left in office before you're leaving in your final term. President Obama's got 3-4 years ahead of him. How much is he going to do with his quote-unquote pen for the next 3 years and go around Congress? I mean, it's very frightening. I mean, it's like a monarchy and fascism rolled into one. I mean, really, the last thing we need is for him to have that attitude. But he started it this week with what he's going to do with the minimum wage. How much further is he going to take it? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's really scary. And I'm not somebody that's an alarmist, but it's really scary the level that he's taken his power, and it should really make Republicans and Democrats really think about how much power that we have given presidents. When Bush was in office and he couldn't get anything done with the Democrats in Congress, and a lot of the things that he did, that were in runs around Congress, we were kind of like, well, thank God it needed to be done. In retrospect, you have to think, we really need Congress. They might irritate the hell out of us sometimes, but we need Congress. We need that checks and balances system, and Obama is grossly abusing that by, the signing statements and the executive orders and whatnot. And the minimum wage thing is, it's just frightening. I can't even express it enough how scary that is to me.
Yeah, I was looking at the minimum wage thing, and unfortunately they have not released a whole lot of details over what apparently he's going to do through contractors who are seeking new business with the federal government have to pay all their employees at least the what I believe they're also talking about is that won't just apply to federal contracts and federal work. It's going to extend to that business's entire operation. So I think what's going to happen there, and I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but you're going to see a lot of people that do seek government business stopping.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, the thing about it is everything trickles down. If you raise somebody's wages, the cost is going to be passed onto the consumer. It always is. We've seen that with Obamacare. When you basically force the insurers to raise their rates, obviously they're going to pass that on to the consumer. And it doesn't matter whether it's public sector or private sector. These things happen. People are already strapped. They don't have the money. Some people don't have the money to feed their families. They don't have the money to pay for Obamacare. And, now you're going to make the cost of goods and services go up with pushing for minimum wage increase. Number one, the private sector minimum wage increase is not going to happen in the U.S. Congress because the House won't let it happen. But we're seeing it happen on a local level, and at the state level, they're trying that here in North Carolina, and they're getting a lot of pushback. It won't happen here because we have a supermajority GOP and the GOP governor here. But this president has a disconnect with what it means to grow an economy. You don't grow an economy by increasing the minimum wage. You grow an economy by making conditions conducive for business owners to want to invest, and they begin to hire people, and people have the money to go out and buy goods and services. This is not right.
Melissa, what do you think?
These are supposed to be the smart people in Washington. Somebody like me shouldn't have to tell them this.
Melissa?
I'm sorry. There's been a lot of fading in and out. And so, okay. One thing I wanted to say to build on what Stacey said way back when I actually heard what she was saying was that when Barack Obama says that he won't hire any federal contractors that won't pay their employees at least $10.10 an hour, and and everybody was clapping. That's taxpayer money. So he's being all generous with money that isn't in the coffers. The money isn't there. And then he was talking about reducing the deficit by half. Well, when you raise the deficit to $1 trillion and then you reduce it by half, you're not doing the American people any favor. And he just undid any of the gains that were made because of this new budget. And the horrible, severe cuts that were put into place with the last year, across the board cuts. I'm just like, there's just no reality. Kathy McMorris Rogers, as an aside, just got done giving her response, and I've had it on mute, but she looked really good, and people should note who are listening that she gave birth 8 weeks ago and is obviously a working mother, and she looked really good, personable, and I've met the woman in person. She's, really, I think, a good face for the GOP, so I didn't hear the content of what she said, but she looked good at least, and that counts for a lot once people put the TV on mute, which I'm figuring they did about 5 minutes into Obama's speech. So anyway.
Let's take a really quick break, and then I want to come back to some comments which he made regarding U.S. investment and where people feel like they should be sinking their dollars, and not only that, who is sinking their dollars into the U.S. This is the Roundtable of Extreme Liberty here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. We'll be right back after this.
Mr. President, members of Congress, you've been making a lot of noise about taking our guns away. But you might want to review history. 1835, Gonzales, Texas Territory. The authorities wanted to confiscate the big gun that protected that colony. You know what the people said? Come and take it. Because they were willing to fight for their freedom and their guns. So are we.
Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from my cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it.
One shot at a time. Just like Gonzales, we're keeping our guns.
Ten out of 10 Lee and Don fans hate Vigilant Liberty Radio. And we like it that way. Vigilant Liberty Radio.
Back here on the Roundtable of Extreme Liberty, I am your host, Taylor. Alan Bordius is here as well.
Good evening.
As is Melissa Cloth. I'm going to say it wrong, and I said it right earlier. I'm just going to call you Mel C. Is that okay?
Claudius.
Melissa Clodia. As well, yeah, I know.
Quit while you're ahead, Taylor.
Yeah,
just quit while you're ahead.
I'm just going to quit while I'm ahead. And then Sister Tolja is here as well. Stacy, thanks for being here. Melissa, thanks for being here. And Alan, thanks for being here.
Hey.
There was a comment that the president made during his speech where he said this when it had to come to American investment. And for the first time in over a decade, business leaders around the world have declared that China is no longer the world's number one place to invest. America is. Now, this is very, very interesting and a very, very comment to make, because here's the weird thing. According to Bloomberg, Bloomberg Business Week, let me get it right. Chinese companies are on a North American buying spree, investing $14 billion in the U.S. last year, which was a record high. What the Rhodium Group said, Chinese investment in the United States doubled in 2013 driven